Greetings and welcome to this week's episode of UC Weekly News. I'm your host, David Danto, and I have a terrific guest on with me, someone I've known in the industry for many, many years, my good friend Snorre Kjesbu. Snorre, tell everybody what you do in the industry. Describe it in a way, because I struggle with this. What do? I do that thing we did during the pandemic. How do you describe what you do?
Yeah. So first of all, Dave, thank you so much for having me. And you and I have known each other for a long time, so it's an honor to be here. Let me start colloquially, and then I'll go into the actuals of what I do. What I really do is to jump out of bed every morning to create truly amazing experiences, amazing products. That's my passion. It's always been my passion. It's still my passion, and that's the point of everything we do. And nothing's ever going to change that. The other thing I do is that I am now the Senior Vice President and General Manager of Cisco's collaboration business. That is everything Cisco is doing on Collab. That is, contact center. It is suite with meetings, calling, engagement in meetings, etc. And then the devices. So phones and video devices. And it's a big team around the planet that's creating all of these magical products and magical experiences.
So you do so much more than video now, although that's where you and I both kind of got our start in this space. Let's talk about that just in his historical context, just for a second. I remember, all these old campaigns, the see hello, the way we work, to come throw a football if you can complete your call, we'll give you a t-shirt. Why was it so hard initially to get people to understand the value of collaboration and video conferencing, of this face-to-face over a distance? And what happened? Why did we get over that hump? It has to be more than just the pandemic.
I think it's a number of things, actually. First of all, video has been used for a long time. And I think that if we go back to when Cisco invented telepresence, the whole description of that program was really unique. I think it's one of the best I've seen in my career. It was basically, let's take a table, cut it in half, and add 5,000 mats. That's pretty bold. That's cool stuff. And with that, we were able to start bridging important meetings on even across large distances, and that got it into high-profile important meetings. But how did it go from there to be ubiquitous? And not only that, but how did it go from there to actually be mission critical? And I think there's a number of things. First, it's the development of the products themselves and the services themselves that are very different now than it was 10, 15 years ago. And also having access to the right type of broadband network everywhere. So you have some fundamental technological drivers that has taken this forward. The other one is the ability to really bring as many people into a meeting as you want to. If we go back a few years, you could bring, 4 or 8 or 12 sites in. Now I'm in meetings with 50 sites, 100 sites, 200 sites, 1,000 sites, 5,000 sites. I mean, it goes on and on and on. So I think that we crossed some thresholds for technology, for processing, for what's happening in the back-end meeting service, both with Cisco and also with other players out there. And then all of this almost landed perfectly well with the beginning of the pandemics. If the pandemic had happened a year or a year and a half earlier, I think we would have had problems.
Mhm.
But it's one of those things. I was thinking that when the pandemic hit, I was at Bang& Olufsen making very expensive Danish loudspeakers. We can talk about that later. But when that hit, I thought, shoot, Cisco is prime. Everything works with the right quality from everywhere. Microsoft is there, Zoom is there. And with those three key players, all of that tech was there when the pandemic hit. And then with the pandemic, we got an incredibly steep learning curve because there were no other options. So tech arrived at the same time as the pandemic, and then we taught everyone. Um, and I think the thing that surprised me during that is that we got everything done during the pandemic. We got things just continued to operate, even if we had to
Businesses
work from
didn't
home.
close. Everybody was
No,
functioning.
no,
It just was smooth
yeah.
right all along.
No, and I'm not kidding you. If you in January of 2020 said we were going to send home everyone in the company and we're going to execute like nothing had happened, I would have said, Dave, you can't be serious. And then that's what happened when we got too much. So I think that the stars, in some really funky way, aligned with tech having crossed that barrier of maturity. It had crossed that level where it was good enough for everything. And we were able to get everything done. And then learning curve was days and not weeks and years. So really exciting. But having said that, as I mentioned, I mean, if we go back even 10 years before the pandemic, a lot of high stakes important meetings was happening on video. The tech was there for those type of things, but then we evolved getting into where we're at.
That's a good explanation. I never quite thought of it that way. And the idea that everything just kind of laid out in an optimal manner, and then if one piece had been missing, it might not have turned out that way. So that's a great answer to that question.
Yeah.
So we've both had a career where we've bounced around. I've bounced around more than you have. You've bounced, but mostly to the same places.
Mm.
Give us a 2 or 3 minute explanation of, because the reason we're having this conversation today, I was honored to be on one of the analyst briefings that you guys did recently. And when you were describing your new role, you were exuding some joy and some real privilege in talking about how terrific it was to be in this position. I really wanted to understand more, and I think everybody will want to understand more about how you got to where you are and why you think you can kind of move the needle now in this new role.
Yeah. So first of all, I'm incredibly grateful for this role. It's my dream position. It's the job I always have wanted and that I dreamt of, and my dream came through. And I have some incredibly big shoes to fill. I mean, we're talking about people like, Ron Trollope and Jeet Patel and Javed Khan and Anurag Dhingra. I mean, this is some serious shoes to fill, but I have to come at this from my position of strength and what I do and what I do best. And I think that there are a couple of things. We started with my passion, and my passion is creating great products, great experiences. My other passion is to build great teams and put those teams together because I know that if we had 12 of me in a leadership team, we would not be successful. Uh, so I need
It's
people that
interesting. Let me pause you there. It's interesting you say that because that's actually been a problem in many businesses, including, I'll say, Cisco over the years, in that a number of leaders do try and hire people that will only see things the way they do, as opposed to filling out a staff with people that will challenge them and diversity of thought is what I call it. So that's a very strategic strength if people understand it.
Yeah, and I think so as well. And what we do is not only is it hard, but it's also highly creative. And if you're going to make really good decisions, it's about getting different points of view in. It's also being able to challenge each other. And to do that, you also need to create a team where you get that openness to discuss, the openness to challenge, the openness to dare to take a different point of view. So as a leadership team, we're not running blind. So I think that is potentially the key thing to all of this. And I think those are the two things. And if we look back at my career, I've done some pretty interesting stuff throughout. I started with hardcore Wi-Fi, radio wave propagation work when I was at ABB. I was fortunate enough to guest lecture at Stanford Network Research Center up at Stanford University, and worked on the development of Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and wireless sensors, etc. And I got my hands dirty when I did that, which is something that I brought forward. And then I got into Tandberg, and I was part of the journey of creating this industry with an absolutely outstanding team. And then Cisco came along and acquired our company, which was, for me, godsend, because it brought me back here to the west coast of the US that I love so much, and working at this fantastic company, Cisco. And then I took a little bit of a time out to go and work with consumer products because that's something I'd never done. I mean, ABB is everything that's big, heavy, and expensive, right? And then after that, it was either Tandberg with video and then Cisco with collaboration. So I took a few years out. I went into consumer goods, and I learned so much from that because it's a different way of thinking product. It's a different way of thinking brand. It's a different way of really challenging how you innovate and create. And that I took that time out. When I got back into Cisco, I came in with a lot of energy and focus that's still with me. So I think as part of those, it goes back to the two things at Bang& Olufsen as well. It was really about those incredible products and experiences. And there it was all about creating the magic. And then to do this, you need the teams to be creative and drive that innovation.
So now that you're in charge of more than just the video and the products, the hardware, you're now in charge of the entire collaboration suite. Um, what opportunities does that give you to mesh things that you may not have had prior to today?
So I think the strength of Cisco is our total architecture and portfolio. And what G2 has done, taking over all products at Cisco, is that he's been able to drive an architecture that goes across everything we do. And that is a massive strength. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that Cisco is the only player and now I take this from a collaboration point of view, but I'll sort of add on to onto that what the rest of the company is doing from a collab point of view. We're the only player that has a contact center, calling, meeting suite backend. We have an app and device front end. We have that on top of a fabric of AI that goes across all of them, contact center, calling, meeting suite, devices. And then that stands on the shoulders of the enterprise networking, the security business, and the manageability and the controllability that we have and observability that we have at Cisco. That is a pretty strong offer, to say it mildly, because it allows us to do a lot more than just be a point product type of vendor. And just some of the things that we've been driving now on the devices side, where we have said we do everything over IP that gives you power over IP, it gives you media over IP, it gives you manageability and controllability over IP. It solves so many problems for the end user. It solves so many problems for the ones that own and operate, because you don't need the electrician, you don't need the amplifier, you don't need the extender. All the media is coming in over that IP cable, and you also have full control out to the last microphone, to the last camera, to the codec, everything, all the way out there. Super strong. Looking at contact center and a meeting, we just made an acquisition of a company called EasyDubs. EasyDubs is language to language or voice to voice translation without going via voice to text, text back to speech, or speech to speech, sorry, not voice to voice, but speech to speech. That is relevant for calling, it's relevant for meetings, it's relevant for contact center. All of a sudden, you can offer in your own tone of voice the ability to provide that type of service in 15 different languages or more. And that building block goes across all of them. So I think that having this as a group is super important and really key to what we do, and using those building blocks across. And if we talk about AI for a second, Dave, it's the other thing. I meet a lot of customers and partners, and some are leaning in, others are struggling a little. And one of the things that I try to say is that don't make an AI stew. Don't throw everything AI into one saucepan and try to make a stew out of it. Try to pull it into different dishes. And think about your company or organization, and it's like, okay, what are those dishes? For collaboration, we've divided them into three. It's what we call AI at the edge, AI in the cloud, AI for control and manageability. AI at the edge is what we're doing on our devices and the work we've done with NVIDIA since 2015. Can you imagine? So we're coming up on 10 and a half years that we've been working with that. That is something happening out at the edge. It's all about the smart camera, the director, and the work we're doing out there, noise canceling, etc., etc. Then we have AI in the cloud, which is about the large language models. That's relevant for our meeting business. It's relevant for our calling business. It's super relevant for our contact center business with a lot of the same building blocks again.
Mm-hmm.
And then the final one is AI for control and manageability. That means that you provide superpowers to the people that own and operate the service. And that superpower, you need that for contact center. You need it for calling, meetings, suite. You need it for devices as well. And that's where the AI tools come together for all of them. So I think that having disaggregated and made these areas, we've really gotten to a place where a lot of this goes across. And then, of course, there are things that are unique with meetings and with contact center, with devices, etc. But I think in general, it's a massive opportunity to work on this together.
And let's actually call that out and give you guys a kudo for that one, because you're probably the only company that I've heard talk about how you inherently have two customers all the time. You have the user and you have the manager of the suite, and you need to serve not one or the other, but both. And that's a very unique message in the industry.
Totally. And you need great products and experiences for the ones that are in the meeting, like you and I are now. However, this is mission critical, as we discussed earlier in this conversation. And it's
Well, not
since
this
this
one,
is
but yeah, I get it.
yeah, but this is mission critical. And when I say this is mission critical, is like collaboration, the way to communicate using video, voice, but also a contact center is mission critical. Can you imagine if a contact center goes down to a business? Since it's mission critical, you must make sure that the ones that own and operate have the superpowers and the tools to be able to run that mission critical. Because you can't afford an outage. You can't afford not to know. You can't afford to take hours or days to fix something. You must fix something in minutes. And I think that we can't spend enough energy on making sure that they have the right tools.
Agreed. It's terrific. And one of the other things that I wanted to do in this conversation today is I wanted to actually provide a little punctuation, because there's so many things that have happened so quickly that we don't even realize it. If I close my eyes and think back to the first instance of Cisco with the video, the CTS 3000s, and what the telephony version was that I forget that my buddy Kevin was working on for many years.
Mm.
I always think of the walled garden that Cisco was, and that obviously changed a little bit with the purchase of Tandberg and Rowan and all the other stuff. But all of a sudden, if I look at the market with fresh eyes, the Cisco endpoints, video and otherwise, are the most interoperable endpoints on the planet right now. When did that happen? What did we what part of the movie did I miss where all of a sudden I'm coming in and you're now, native on Zoom and native on WebEx and native on Teams, and that had to have been a bigger plan that somebody had somewhere, and it just happened so quickly, or so gradually that we missed it.
So it actually came out to the following. We had a discussion, and I said, let's go and get numbers. So we reached out to 3,800 of our customers. So not 10 or 50 or 100, but 3,800 customers. We asked, okay, how many meeting platforms do you use? 85% use two or more. There's actually more people using four than one. And if you then just take those numbers and you look yourself in the mirror and you think, okay, we are going to drive the best experience for the customer. Okay, what is best for the customer? To support one or multiple? And with 85%, I mean, this is pretty obvious. So 85, two or more. And then we worked with our competitors, Microsoft and Zoom, and we've had incredibly fruitful and good relationships. And it's working with Microsoft where we really push this. We totally push the envelope of what's possible. And with Microsoft, uh, we are native integration with Microsoft running WebEx at the same time. You get all of the bells and whistles and the strength out of the Cisco products as well in the Microsoft environment. And this has been highly successful, and the customers love it. And what they get on top of that is that they get the strength of what we just spoke about when it comes to the manageability and controllability as well.
Really, really awesome to realize that, it is the most interoperable endpoints that you can get right now, which is really saying a lot after all the machinations we've been through over the years. All right, just another couple of quickies, and then I'll let you go. What about how are you looking right now at this concept of the future of work, of hybrid working? Work is a pendulum. You know that, I know that, where, everybody can now work from home. Everybody now has to be in the office. We're going back and forth. Do you think we'll ever settle that argument? Will old thoughts age out? Or are we going to move back to more traditional, or are we going to stay as you and I have for our entire careers, where wherever we've got a screen and a camera, we're working? Where do you think that's going to settle over the next few years?
I'm not going to speculate on that. I think that what I am going to make a comment of is that there will always be someone remote, and that means that 100% of the meetings will need to accommodate for a remote attendant. That can be someone working from home, it can be someone traveling, it can be someone in another office where you're bridging different offices in a company, etc. So I think the notion we need to think about is that this will ebb and flow a little, just like you said. And it's not my opinion one way or the other on that one. But what I know is that meetings without a remote participants are those days are gone. Because if not, it's between two parts of a campus in the same town to across the world to people traveling. The key then is to make sure that everyone have the same seat at the table. Everyone has can be seen, can be heard, but also can see and hear like they were there. And this is what we call distance zero. So what we're trying to make sure is that there is no barrier between people that are attending remote and people that are in a meeting room or etc. And we do that by what we do around cinematic experiences with our AI director that will actually literally create and understand where in the meeting the discussions are happening and then produce a meeting accordingly.
Okay. All right, and the last question, and I ask this of everybody when we're having this kind of a conversation, is take out your crystal balls and Nothing that will ever hold you to, but 3 years, 4 years, 5 years down the road, where do you think you personally are going to be able to move the needle? How are you going to be able to have an effect on what's happening in the world of collaboration at Cisco?
Yeah. So let's look 12 months out first, and maybe 18. So I think that if we look at 2025, it was all about AI agents, AI functionality. And we and also our competitors made great strides to get a lot of really, really cool and useful functionality. Simple things like summarization, action taking. I mean, even if you'd spoken about that a few years ago, you would have said, no, no, that's not going to happen. Now it's in every meeting. Uh, and now with what we did recently, we have even launched it so that you could do it when you're not even on a call. You will just do it when the meeting is local. This is the tools that are there. What you will see coming up in 2026 and 2027 is that this will now start to drive outcomes. So when the tech is there, the next one, the follow-up on that is actually the outcome. That is being able to do more, being able to see concrete results. We could take that from a contact center point of view. If you think of contact center is a business that evolved in the 70s and 80s with queuing and being able to queue calls and the first in and everything. And then it evolved in the 90s and the 2000s, but it's a basic technology that's been there for the last 30, 40 years. Now that is being totally changed with AI and what we can do with what we call the AI concierge that we have from Cisco, and competitors have similar things. And when you think about the technology that is there, and also agents that are monitoring other agents automatically, that technology is now in place. What we will see in the next 12 months is that the outcome for the customers that are using this technology in the contact center is that they will get higher customer satisfaction. They will be able to scale. They will be able to be more consistent. So I think that what excites me now is that we have so many of these building blocks, and then turning that into outcome, I think is what we're seeing in the next few quarters and years. And I think that is the big shift, and that's what I see in the crystal ball just now. And then, you know what? Stay curious, continue to innovate. That's who we are at Cisco.
Okay. I certainly agree with those comments. I think that over the next year, we're going to have to do a little bit of a better job as a technology industry in general to separate out the AI washing and the AI hype from what's actually real and productive and helpful. I think we've got another year or so for that to kind of work its way out. And, for the cases like the metaverse and the rest of it to sort of wash away. And what we're left with is going to be some really good, solid products and features.
Yeah, and I think most of the things I see is actually super useful. However, this is the way I think about it. We typically overestimate the impact in the short term and underestimate the impact in the long term. So if we go back and we look at the other transitions that you and I have lived through, the impact has been much bigger than we had anticipated in the long term. And then we've gone through a short cycle or maybe or have too high expectation in the short term, but in the long term, we continuously underestimate. When I see what AI can do to us, I am impressed every single day.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing a little bit of your background and your history and where you are predicting you're going to be taking your team going forward. Thanks for spending the time with our viewers. Happy holidays. Enjoy the break, enjoy the time, and when next we see everybody, I'm not sure if you're going, but I'm going to be at CES, looking around and seeing what the next waves of hype are going to be. But we really do appreciate you taking the time.
And thank you very much as well. And thanks for having me, and happy holidays.
And thank you very much for watching UC Weekly News as you do every week. I'm your host, David Danto. Next week, we are going to repeat the show that had the analysts talking about what we felt the biggest stories were while you're enjoying your end-of-year holidays. And then we will be back at CES early in the year. So thanks very much for watching as you do all the time. And we'll see you next week.